The Cadillac Lyriq flies in the face of everything we've come to know about new cars lately. It's a brand new EV-only brand, but for once, it's not from China. It's built in America, shipped to us here in Australia, but it's not converted from left-hand drive by Walkinshaw or someone like that. Instead, it's built in right-hand drive from the factory for us. And it's a brand new player fighting for market share, but it won't be doing battle in the low-price arena. Instead, it's taking aim at some of our most established premium players. So, iconic brand Cadillac seems destined to do things a little differently with its Lyriq. The question is it good enough to forge its own path? Let's go find out. You can have your Cadillac Lyriq in two flavors: the luxury for $122,000 plus on-road costs, or the sport, which is $2,000 more, listing at $124,000. So, perspective time. The new Polestar 3 starts at around $118,000, but does climb to more than $130,000 for the dual motor options. Then there's a similarly sized BMW iX, which starts at more than $140,000, and the Mercedes-Benz EQE, which is north of $135,000. So if you consider the Cadillac a ready-made premium brand, then it's looking like a pretty sharp one. Cadillac says the changes between the two trims largely focus on the aesthetic signature rather than any major equipment differences. The luxury gets chrome highlights, for example, while the sport gets a darkened design theme, including the wheels, body highlights, and windows. Both trims are otherwise identically equipped, which means 21-inch alloy wheels, full LED lighting, an electric sunroof, an auto-opening boot, and a touch-to-open charging port. Inside, there's a 33-inch digital dash with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless device charging, a thumping 19-speaker AKG stereo, and USB connection points galore. The leather-wrapped front seats have heating, ventilation, and a massage function. There's heating and cooling for the window seats in the back, tri-zone climate control, and there's 126 color ambient interior lighting as well. The Cadillac looks, well, a bit American, right? It's kind of got this difficult to describe Americanness that sits somewhere between an SUV and a state car. And I don't mean that as an insult, by the way. I personally think the Lyriq looks pretty sharp with some of its bolder design elements, countered by some really nice gentle touches. And looking front on, doesn't even look that big. It's only when you step around to the side that you realize you're dealing with an absolute behemoth. But the best thing about it, I think, is that it doesn't actually look like any other new SUV arriving, nor does it look like a copycat German product. It's definitely got its own persona. So step inside the Lyriq and you'll find a predictably plush feeling cabin experience. The seats are super comfortable, they're heated and cooled, and they have a massage function. And I think the tech looks great, especially this curved screen, which really makes it feel like you're sort of in a rolling IMAX or something. Look, it's probably a little bit too shiny and busy in places for my taste, but I do love the fact that when I'm on the road, I can just basically forget this screen exists. All my aircon controls are here, my stereo controls are here, and everything I need while I'm driving is accessible through the steering wheel and displayed on the screen in front of me. So I can largely forget this center screen exists. I don't have to dig through the menus or anything like that, which is always a win in my book. But there are a couple of quirks in here that I find interesting. For one, this grab handle on the driver's side is not replicated on the passenger side, which is weird. It's probably a byproduct of the left-hand drive to right-hand drive conversion. Also, these two little pokey storage bins here are too small to really hold anything of note, but maybe they're there for your license and registration or whatever it is you see on all those US cop shows. And despite all the tech and the price point, there's no head-up display, which does feel like a slightly odd omission. And how do you open the glove box? That's a very good question. It's opened here via the screen, which is kind of weird as well. So, the back seat, and look, I know this is probably only going to be interesting to parents of newborn babies, but hey, that's me, so I definitely noticed. These might be the best ISOFIX attachment points I've ever used. You know how usually you're fumbling between the seat cushions trying to find the connection point? It's not the case here. They're just under these little flaps. You connect straight away and the whole process takes about 2 seconds. They're really easy to use. Now, the downside of those though is that when you're sitting in the seat, you can feel them. Either the hard plastic covers or this thick cushion that I presume has been used to cover the support brace. You can feel it in your lower back when you're sitting down, but it's only really a problem when you push right back into the seat. If you sit forward just a little bit, it's far less noticeable. And another little mysterious point here, we've got these two little inserts on either side of the cabin, and I can't for the life of me figure out what they're supposed to be used for. So if you know, can you let me know in the comments below, because the mystery is killing me. Elsewhere though, as you can see, you've got oodles of room to spread out. You've got your prerequisite USB charge ports, and you can control your own temperatures back here as well. And of course, in the pull down divider, you've got 2 cup holders and bottle holders in the doors. It's a pretty big boat, this Lyriq, stretching more than 5 meters in length and almost 2 meters in width. And to put that into some sort of perspective for you, that's almost as long as, and in fact wider than, something like a Nissan Patrol. So we are talking a pretty big car, although obviously it's nowhere near as tall as a four-wheel drive like that. Anyway, predictably that means a pretty big boot, which you open by hitting the Cadillac logo at the back here. And it opens to reveal a very usable 793 litres of luggage space, including a second hidden storage space underneath the boot floor. And if you drop the rear seats, that number grows to more than 1,700 litres of storage. So we are talking plenty of cargo room here. Now, all the Lyriq models are twin motor affairs with an electric motor at each axle producing a total 388 kilowatts and 610 Newton meters. And in a car this big, and which weighs just under 2.7 tons, is enough to make the Lyriq feel brisk when you're moving away from the lights. There's no problem getting up and moving, but it doesn't feel like a supercar either. And twin motors means all-wheel drive, of course. Now, all Aussie Lyriqs are equipped with a 102 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion NCMA battery, which delivers an okay driving range of around 530 kilometers on the combined cycle. Now, I say okay because the BMW iX will deliver more than 600, while the Polestar 3 and dual motor guys will give you around 630. Now, official energy consumption is 22.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, the Lyriq is also set up for 190 kilowatt DC fast charging, which should take you from 10 to 80% in just under 30 minutes. At home, it's set up for three-phase 22 kilowatt plus charging, but you can also use a 7 kilowatt wall box or just a regular household plug. Okay, first things first behind the wheel of this Lyriq. We've covered a fair few Ks in this. In fact, if you know Sydney at all, I drove from the city up to the Central Coast and back again just yesterday. And the one thing I noticed more than anything else about this car, it is whisper quiet. It might be the quietest vehicle this side of a Rolls Royce. Cadillac make a very big deal about this active noise cancellation system, which basically uses the car stereo to mitigate some of the road noise. And it sounds a little bit like marketing guff when you read it, but I gotta say, it really and truly works. Even traveling at freeway speeds, there's very little road noise, very little tire noise. It is a really whisper quiet and thus pretty refined feeling cabin experience when you're on the road. Elsewhere though, it does seem to be one of those premium vehicles where they've focused on sort of weight or heft to give that kind of feeling of it being expensive. It does have relatively heavy steering, but everything kind of feels a little bit heavy. There's nothing lightweight or agile about the Cadillac Lyriq drive experience. There's plenty of weight in the steering, plenty of weight in the car, and it just feels kind of like, I guess they're going for like that Rolex watch feel of like you wouldn't want one that felt feather light. Well, this isn't feather light either. It is amazing to think though that this is a vehicle that weighs just under 2.7 tonne, and as I said, it's not lightning fast, but I'll come to a complete stop facing up a fairly steep hill and put my foot down, and there's absolutely no problem with its get up and go, accompanied by that kind of sci-fi soundtrack in the background. Again, not lightning fast, not supercar speeds, but definitely no problem getting a car this big and this heavy up and moving. You really don't want for any more power, I don't think. That said, there are single motor options in the United States. We don't have them in Australia yet, and in fact we might not get them, but I'd be curious to see how they feel moving a car this heavy. Now the steering is heavy, but it does feel fairly direct and confidence inspiring, and I don't mind the ride either. It certainly hasn't been tuned or tested in Australia, at least I don't think it has, but it also doesn't have that American spec kind of floatiness that they seem to love over there. If you've ever driven a hire car in the United States, you know what I mean. They really go in for the soft suspension. This one does feel that it's had at least an international tune, which kind of removes some of that marshmallowness, and instead you get a car which is fairly well connected to the road below, which is definitely my preference. The other interesting quirk about Lyriq ownership is the way its safety systems deliver their messages. There's not much in the way of bings or bongs or chimes in the cabin, which is great. Instead, it sends a little vibration through your butt cheeks every time it senses something wrong. So like if someone's crossing behind the car, for example, or the car in front brakes suddenly, you just get a little bum massage warning you that something's going on, which is a fairly unique take on it all. All up though, I've got to say the Lyriq does offer a very competent, very quiet and very comfortable drive experience for the driver. And I guess that's really what you're looking for from a premium SUV, isn't it? Now, full disclosure, we have not pushed this to its limits on truly twisting roads yet. So how the big bus handles when you're facing an alpine pass, I do not know. But for everyday driving, even long distance driving, very comfortable, very quiet and very competent. So the Lyriq hasn't actually been crash tested in Australia, but it did get a 5-star equivalent in American crash testing. Now, all the active safety stuff is present and accounted for, and there's 8 airbags inside, including a knee airbag for both driver and passenger. Cadillac have built a fairly convincing ownership proposition around the Lyriq, which starts with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty and an 8-year 160,000 kilometre battery warranty. But you also get 5 years of servicing and 5 years of roadside assistance on the house. And when you buy one, you get a year's free public charging through the ChargeFox network. Now, you'll also get a free wall box delivered to your house as well. But if you already have a wall box or you don't want one, you can trade that for an extra 2 years of public charging. It's got a couple of quirks, but the Cadillac Lyriq is a pretty convincing, pretty unique, and definitely American take on a premium electric vehicle in Australia. The only issue, I think, is that while the brand is super well known in the United States, it doesn't have that much brand recognition here in Australia, and we are now a market awash with pretty good and often cheaper electric vehicles from China. It is a hyper-competitive market. So the real challenge will be whether Cadillac can convince Australians that that badge belongs among the other premium European marques in this country. Now remember, for my full review on this car and thousands of others just like it, head on over to carsguide.com.au.